For real, we are live. So this is the B2A Ayutthaya after action report. It was played by three players: Kevin, myself, Evolution, and Azabelle. Say hi.
Hi, I'm Azabelle.
Um,
I played for the final last year or two of
yeah,
game.
and Kevin played for the first 2 years, and I played through the middle section. So we're going to start with, and you can see my stream, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So we're gonna go quickly through this because this isn't, neither of us are playing here. Um, Kevin goes for the double in the first year, as you do, as Ayutthaya going for Ava. It's pretty clear that he's also allowing the Mughals to go to Pegu, and then he's going for the Andaman Islands. He's going for the pre-core, he's going for Ava, and he's going for Sambas. Then we have the fall moves. He's just taking his centers. And then there's a bit of tension over Bamo where Ming is going for it, and Ayutthaya is also supporting moves into it. Then we have the Dutch and the English. The Dutch moved to take the entire island of Sumatra, including ACEH and Palembang. So there is a strong Dutch presence in Indonesia, especially with the fact that the Dutch are in Cotabato, which they usually don't get
Yeah,
into
this
much
one's a
love.
little. Yeah, usually Spain goes for that one, but looks like Spain went for the Bonin Islands, presumably. As it
Yep.
seems like Manila went north.
Um, it's usually not the standard play, but Tokugawa screwed as well. Ooh.
Yeah, I think they're only going +1 this year.
Wow.
Uh,
Okay. And then of course Portugal is getting like 3 dot colony here. Lucky Portugal. That was so good. Let's see. Spring of 1543. Um, Mughals evacuated Pegu. They couldn't defend that even if they wanted to. I guess Ming and Portugal are teaming up against Ayutthaya. I didn't even realize that was a thing, but I guess they were at some point. And
yeah,
then,
this is pretty standard. The
okay.
bounce in the Viet because like Aita with those three armies kind of can only go for Tonkin. So like since those moves are happening anyway, that's kind of what you do. Uh,
That's good.
Especially with the bouncing Ming out of Bamo year one. Uh, yeah, it's pretty predictable.
Hmm. What about the Lan Nan move from Ming instead of like going for Bao or something?
It's a bit of a risk, right? Because like, what if you just randomly end up there? But like on the flip side of things, uh, like you're not okay. So you're not getting into Bama without support, and if you go to Yongchang, then like you're not in a much better position anyway. And now IU has 2 on Kunming, and it's going to try to force it, and so you're just going to be support holding. So I actually like this bounce. And like Chengdu is just going there to make sure that if you accidentally get in, you're not in a bad position. Although it could have taken Signing. That might have been better, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess with this move, Chengdu could support old Kunming, and Ayutthaya and Mughals wouldn't have enough. Uh,
yeah.
oh, I guess Ayutthaya didn't stab in the spring because the Dutch are still moving pro Ayutthaya. Or was this the gunboat
Yeah, this.
phase?
No, this is not the gunboat phase.
Okay. I thought
Gunboat
this
phase
looked
is
like
later.
a stab, but
I mean, where else is IU going? I think it's a bit of a step, but also where else are they going with their fleets? Like, uh, the Malacca Strait definitely looks hostile though.
Let's go to fall.
Oh yeah,
So,
this was the gunboat turn. I remember this distinctly because I was a spec and Kevin hadn't gotten moves in, so they were asking us to put in moves. And the one move that I put in was Odon convoys into Sarok. Um, just because if you get it off, that army is like super crushing. Because if you get the army into Bannermerson, that's control over the entire island. Because you get essentially an uncuttable support. Um, and then I think Soda did the rest of the gunboat moves. Um, so that's the Pegu grab and attempt at a.
yeah, I mean, these moves set me up really well. Having that army is definitely a dominating position over the entire island. Um, Taking Pegu, getting that +1 build. Because right after this winter phase is where I subbed in. So it set me up really good. So then we have the winter adjustments. I decide to build Audong. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Um, I decide to build it here because it's non-committal. Um, it could be used anti-Portugal, it could be used anti-Spain, it could be used anti-Dutch. So the purpose of it was to keep my options open. And the Dutch, surprisingly enough, did not build a whole lot in Indonesia, and I was very happy about that. Um, so yeah, um, I was of course telling them like, hey, uh, the Netherlands would play by Vlad. I was telling him like, hey, I'm on your side. Let's go kill Spain. And he sees the fleet and he's like sorta still suspicious, but he's also hoping for my support against Spain. And then we have Ming's builds and an army of Macau, which I think it was lost at the time. I asked him for an army in Macau to go and fight Ming. Um,
That's devious. It's yeah, you cannot allow that as Ming, right? Like if Portugal builds army in Macau, you just have to like kill that colony because the only thing that they're doing is attacking you with it. Unless they somehow like pitch that they're going to convoy it into Daviet, in which case like that's good Portugal play. But uh, yeah,
well, we'll see what Ming does with that in the spring. But anyway, I also told Mughals to disband their fleet here, which just makes it like a 1v1 between me and the Dutch in terms of fleets here because England also disbands all their stuff. So now we have spring moves. This is the Ming response to the Portuguese moves. Oh, but then Portugal didn't move against them, so I guess it worked out. Um,
well, yeah, maybe the press worked out.
yeah,
Um, did you know that Ming was going to do this, or
I
uh,
I don't even know. I knew they were against Mughals. I tried to convince Ming that that army was against them, but I guess the Ming player she wanted to send more against the Mughals. Um, and in typical fashion, I'm also just sitting there holding Ava just to keep my cards close.
mhm.
Or Pegu, why not? So the Netherlands, by my press, was able to determine that I was not acting in good faith, and they were right. So they did play some moves to counter me. They moved to Florida Sea, they moved to Cocos Basin, they support themselves into ACEH, so that slowed me down a lot. Uh,
And this is just good play, but like you can see how the extra support that the Sarawak army has just like makes that part unholdable because
yes,
they only have fleets, and Spain's keeping them out of Celebes.
yes, it was
So
that army is just insane that Netherlands lose that tournament just on the spot. And when it's in Banjarmasin, it borders all four of the other provinces. Yeah, really good army. Um, and then Spain is also committed against the Dutch, and they're fighting elsewhere. Maybe not much in Europe, but definitely South America here. Uh, let's move on to fall moves. Um, so starting with the north, I told Portugal that I would support them into Kunming, and I told Ming that I would support them into Dongkin, so that I could support myself to Kunming and take it for myself. Because I knew if they were both getting offered stuff, then no one's going to be support holding Kunming, and it worked. But I pissed off both of them. Both of them were not happy.
I
And I
mean,
was,
to be honest, as Portugal, do you believe that like IU is going to give you Kunming here? Right? Like that's the one way that they're expand they expand and fighting, right? Like I guess although then you just support Ming, right? Like if you're Portugal, you don't want to see IU getting around the like you want to stay between Ming and IU. You don't want to see one getting power over the other.
so that's a good point. So to clarify my press with Portugal, um, Lawstats was concerned about Spain getting too big and they wouldn't have enough builds elsewhere in the world in the specific phase. Um, so the way that he saw it and the way that I maliciously went along with was that he would get Kunming this year so that he has an extra build to like not die to Spain or the other colonials, and then I would eventually get it back. Um, but I didn't. I don't care about Portugal and their beef with the colonials. I care about my own documents. So, um,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, and
just
if it
gonna
gets you
take it.
Kunming, it gets you Kunming. Yeah, and also that lets you get the position on Portugal's colony.
Yeah, but either way, it's a three-dot colony, so it's going to be hard to dislodge, especially when Mink's
Yeah.
pissed off at me. And I also didn't want to support the Mughals into Bama because that also doesn't help me. Just only for myself. Um, everything's a stalemate over here. We take Cote d'Ivoire. I move my fleet up a little bit. We're just bouncing an ACH. It's just the Netherlands predicted that stab in the spring. And this is just trench warfare now. It's so difficult to break through this.
Hmm.
But we got Banjarmasin, Spain got Cote d'Ivoire. So yeah,
Yeah, like you are making progress. I mean, they are colonial, so that means they can keep on more units if they want to. But like Netherlands has what, one, two, three, four, five, 7 units defending 5 dots now. So they're gonna have to take something off soon.
yeah.
I guess the
Um,
Iron Ore unit makes 8, but they have Ceylon too.
yep. Uh, and especially with like Spain kind of flanking around, hopefully makes it more difficult for the Dutch to hold. So let's actually go
Yeah.
to the retreats because the Dutch had the option of retreating to Sarawak or Kutai, And I was very happy that they did not retreat to Sarawak because that would have been extremely difficult for me. But they retreated to Kutai, and that was a good thing. Go to winter adjustments. Uh, Ayutthaya, half army, half fleet. Aldong is one of the most mobile positions. Uh, and then the army just helps backfill and could also be used to attack Dongking. Uh, Spain builds two fleets. I'm not a huge fan of that, but they have directions to go. They could go north. They could sort of go south. Like they're not just going to sit there idle. Um, Mughals builds an army. Fine. And the Dutch don't build anything down here. They might have to advance this phase. I don't know.
Looks like they had gains elsewhere. Like Africa's looking quite strong.
Well, either way, they didn't build down here, so that's awesome for me. Let's go to spring 45. So I think it was a few phases ago, like winter or fall or something, when it was the Dark Liz who was playing as Ming before, and then Fairy subbed in. Uh, so this was the first real adjudication I had with Fairy, and she was not happy that I supported the Mughals to Ring Pungpa because I didn't gain anything out of it. So she thought it was
Mhm.
like a redundant stab on her. So she wasn't very happy about that. But it
Yeah,
does.
that's.
What's up?
Oh, I was just saying that's fair. I mean, like, I mean the make moves are a little unfortunate because like you kind of know everything's gonna get tapped, so like there's not a ton you can do.
Yep. But uh, it the supporting Mughals into Ring Pungpa and supporting Mughals in general, the thinking was that Mughals has Safavid against them, a strong Portugal to their south, and they would be like less of a long-term threat than Ming would be. Um, and Mughals being in Ring Pungpa completely like collapses the Ming front. Now Bamo is left alone. We now have two on Chengdu, and they're kind of struggling to defend themselves.
And
Um,
also notably, Muriels has no fleets in the side of the Indian Ocean that you're on. So, like, they have shown that they are not a threat, and not having to put units there is quite nice for you.
yep, it was a very mutually beneficial alliance where we didn't defend our borders from each other.
The real question is, what's going on with Portugal? It looks like we're going for their center.
Uh,
Uh,
Let me think. Is this? I think this was still Volstats, or was it Slay? I don't even know. Let me check. The I did
like, that's the
Slays.
only reason why you might not want to, like, overtly support Mughals is you're angling to take this Portugal stuff, and you don't want Ming to be like looking to take Kunming behind you, uh, or cut that support. Um,
Yeah. Um, I think if I recall correctly, let me see. I'm gonna go to my Portugal channel. This might take a minute. Portugal, Ayutthaya. Let's see. There's a lot of messages in this channel.
I mean, if you don't remember, don't worry. I'm sure the next phase will show
Yeah, I'm just trying to
if
remember who I was
if there was a
pressing.
stop or not.
Well, regardless, I was making big promises to Portugal, and they were probably not happy to see this. Um, the Netherlands, they. This is an interesting order set between Spain and the Netherlands in the Celebes Sea, where me and Spain decided to force disband Kutai, um,
Hmm.
which was successful, but we also enabled Celebes Sea to retreat into Cotabato, um, which was not exactly what we wanted. And it only happened because the Dutch didn't hold themselves in Celebes Sea. So that was a bit unfortunate. Um,
Hmm.
but it actually works to my advantage, and we'll see how that works out later. Um,
Another thing, just tactical thing, Banca should be tapping Java C here instead of supporting Banjarmasin, because if Palembang cuts Banca, then suddenly Dutch get into Banjarmasin and you don't have the force on Kutai anymore. Because this way you're cutting both Java C and Kutai, and so that means that neither can get a support for the other.
yeah, um, that does seem like it would have been a good move. The one thing I would say is, I don't know. I can't be 100% sure if Spain is like going through on the
Sure.
orders.
You don't know if Spain's going to do the cuts that are required.
Um, really, that's just me being pretty paranoid though, because like Spain never really stacks here. But um, there's
Well, if they knew you were
reasons.
walking out of the Tuna Sea, then, like, maybe, I've seen multiple IU positions go downhill because someone walks into the Tuna Sea, and then suddenly they walk into Ayutthaya or Nakhon Sea or Odong. Uh,
I was very paranoid about that because, like, I built Fleet Dong in both of the phases that I could build Fleet, just so that I could backfill the tuna or like have a threat that I'm having fleets there. So I was very protective of that. And then just transport there in Palembang and the island of Sumatra.
mhm.
Let's see. Now we're on, I think it's the follow moves of 45. So this was an interesting phase of uh, press. Okay, so this is when Lolstad's subbed out and Slay subbed in. It was like just a few hours before adjudication. Um, and Spain, I was negotiating with Spain, and they said, okay, I'll support you, or no, I'll tap. I know that's what they told me, like at the beginning of the phase. And that's important because although it looks like a mess of supports, Ming could tap Kunming. So it's really a 3 against 3 in Dom King. I could
And
get.
notably, Ming is mad about you from last turn. So
Yes.
Ming, very well. might do that to spite you. Um,
Yes, yes, Ming is very mad. um, but they decide to move somewhere else. Um, but then Slay stubbed in, and then like last minute, Spain says, "Oh, I was going to tap Hainan. I'm not doing that anymore." And what I didn't know at the time, but I knew after adjudication, was it was because Spain and Portugal were getting their like alliance back together um, after they were fighting. And this is what Slay negotiated with Ballpit Jones since he just recently subbed in, much to the dismay of the Netherlands player, as Portugal is now supporting Spain into Dutch centers um, and just moving against the Dutch across the board. Um, but I get really lucky there because the Dutch are the ones holding me up, and now Portugal just threatened their back line. Um, and then I also get lucky because the Spanish let me take Cotabato. Uh,
so was this just like good press? Because like in most cases, you should never be getting Cotabato here. Like they lost the dot. But like I guess like if I was Spain, I'd be saying no, you have to support me back in. Uh, but I guess since they're getting stuff elsewhere, right? Like they're getting both Minata and Makassar due to some very good guesses and nice tactics.
I
Uh,
I think it would be good press. I think because personally, if I were Spain, I wouldn't be giving up Cotabato so easily. Uh, but either way, I end up with the entire island of Borneo,
mm-hmm.
and then I end up with
That's good play.
Donkeys. So I'm +2 again. Um, and Ming and Mughals are still fighting. So things are looking good for Ayutthaya. One more thing to note is that this will be significant later. All of these countries in Northern Asia are doing horrible. Like Tokugawa went +1 the first year, and they're like getting invaded by Ming and Shang and Inuit. Inuit is doing strong, but they are not doing well in the Americas because they're getting attacked by Shoshone and Portugal for some reason. Um, and then Russia is doing not amazingly because the Safavids are getting strong. Um, and then I'm killing Ming, and Xing is actually doing fine, but Inuits and Ming are both big, so that will come. The fact that Asia is like completely open will come become a factor later in the game. The other thing to
Mm-hmm.
note is this interesting move set. So another thing Slay did when he subbed in was this. I think this is really cool where Slay is convoying the Safavid army that was about to take his dot into a Mughal dot. Like, hey, don't take my dot, take the Mughal's dot. So I thought that was really cool. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, and then also it sets up a larger threat, so the Mughals have to pull their armies back, and that's just really good play. There. It's a really good idea.
I agree. Uh, and Portugal also advances into Hyderabad as well, so they're making good progress. And I think they go to number 1 at the end of this phase as well. Yep, top of the leaderboard by like quite a margin as well. So I had 2 builds and I decided to build 2 fleets. Which is probably a misplay on my part because I really need more armies to continue the advance in the north, but I want to be sure that I could break the Dutch. Um, although the Dutch were mostly
I
dead,
mean,
so or not dead, but like with Portugal stabbing, it was maybe not the best play.
well, the Dutch's position is crumbling, but what's interesting to note here is that they it doesn't appear that they have any disbands, because they're doing so well elsewhere on the board. I think notably in South America and Africa. Um,
Yep.
yeah, they're actually building in Ceylon. So um, because of this, you have a bunch of these fleets that don't have much to guard, and therefore can be quite annoying to get rid of.
Yes.
You can't just take their dots and get them to disband.
Very annoying. The plan for Tavoy was I was going to send it to Andaman Sea and then Sikar Coast and then half the Bay of Bengal. And then I would finally make progress. That was the plan. It was a terrible idea, but when when it's all clogged up like this, you gotta find your way to advance. um, and then Spain did build in the Philippines, which is cool. Uh, Ming built a fleet in Nanking, which I think is better for me because the army is more southward. Um, Portugal built a fleet in Timor, that's good. More pressure on the Dutch. And Madras is covered, so Portugal can't build a fleet there. Awesome.
I think they just scored that. Uh,
Oh, yep. Yep, you're right. And then East Africa is sort of important to me now that I'm going to be a player in the Indian Ocean. So France and Portugal are still alive down here. And the Safavids are getting stronger. Let's go to the spring of 46. Start in the north. So it looks like I support the Mughals into Rangpangpa. I believe the Mughals had a temp sub at this point. Uh, and I talked about this at length in my void. I don't know if you remember it at all, but I wasn't, me and the temp sub for Mughals had some bad press from a previous game. And I was very worried that like that might be an issue, that like it might destroy my relationship with the Mughals because of that bad press. Um, but thankfully, we're still able to work together. So I support them in Ringpunpa, and it kind of sets us to move closer to taking more centers from Ming. Taking Chengdu is difficult, especially when there's a Portugal that probably isn't a fan of me. Um, so Spain and Portugal just pieced out last fall when Slay stubbed in. So then, I was attacking Portugal. I just took King from them. But now that they're at peace with Spain, I'm like, what do I do now? Do I kind of like peace out with Portugal just because they're at peace with Spain, um, to like make the alliances more clear. Uh, we'll see what happens with that, but
but also,
that's
you kind of want them to be for you in the Dutch Indonesia war. Like, sure, they're not bordering you, so if they're fighting the Dutch, like, it doesn't really matter if they're fighting you or not, but, like, still, they're sort of helping you out. And also, fighting the Dutch in India, so uh, it might be worth it to hold on to, like, wait to take that colony so you can get more out of them.
yep. Um, and so I moved to Seaguar Coast. The Dutch told me that they were going to completely evacuate like ACEH and Palembang. They're not going to try to defend it. Um, and they're going to go retaliate against the Portugal that stabbed them. So this is what they're doing. They're just completely evacuating. Um,
I mean, like this is great, but also you have to remember that the Dutch have like what, like 6 units defending 3 dots, and like there's no chance that they hold those dots in the long run, right? Because it's not like you're being pushed by anyone, and so, and also since they're colonial, they're getting more centers elsewhere, so it's not like they can disband these fleets. So just like moving them all the way to India, where they might like have a more stable position, is not a bad play.
yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I think it also served as a way to convince Portugal, like, hey, if you attack me, we're both going to kill each other. Uh, so I think it was good in both of those regards. Uh,
We'll see what happens with that later.
and then I don't know. Me and Spain are just kicking them out of Indonesia in the east. We're taking Java Sea. We're taking Celebes Sea. It enables a Dutch retreat to Zamboanga, but the Spanish have the fleets readily available to disband that, or not disband it, dislodge it, and make sure it doesn't take any centers. Uh, just another really good thing for me because if there's a Dutch fleet in the Spanish backline, then the Spain can't test at me. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that is. And then the Portuguese are moving west with their fleets in Indonesia, and I don't feel like giving them Java. Uh, I give it to someone else, but we'll get to that. Yeah, cool.
Looks like Spain is also making moves on Toku up north.
Yeah, Spain has a really good position in the Pacific. Like I gotta like stretch out the map because it's so big. So they take Edo. I guess they're me and Toku are fighting. Um, so yeah. Um, okay. You think there's anything else to comment on?
No, this all looks like about covered.
Okay. So that was fall of 46. No, that was spring. So this would be fall moves. So um at the time I was telling Portugal, like, oh yeah, so Slay, when he subbed in, he also offered vassal status to me. Um, and then I told him last phase, like, hey, back in the spring, I told him, hey, you should move to Guam so that we could have more armies to beat up the Ming. And then he didn't want to do that because obviously it's a terrible move. Um,
Well, if you're offering to be a vassal, right, like you have to do that, right? Otherwise, what's your worth as a vassal, right? Like,
that's
what's the fleet
you're
gonna do?
you're
It's
reading
gonna
my
sit there.
mind. You're exactly reading my mind. So then at the beginning of next phase, I asked him if he wanted to move there again. And he said no. So I'm like, that's not, you're not my vassal, dude. So you hit the nail on the head there. So then I'm like, okay, if you're not my vassal, I'm just taking a colony. So that's what I do. I move to Bay of Tonkin. I move myself, my own army to Boomerang. That could have been a Portuguese army. I moved myself there to go and take his colony. Um, so yeah, you were spot on, Azabelle. uh, and then I don't know, Mughals and Ming are still fighting. Whatever. Uh, The other important diplomatic thing to note is that Portugal stabbed Spain. So they stabbed the Dutch last fall, and this fall they're stabbing Spain now. And this is happening all across the board. But that's not our area. Um, Colonial dynamics, they're perfect. The Spain and the Dutch, my two biggest colonial borders, are locked in a forever war. Portugal keeps bouncing around the sides, switching sides, and that screws up both of them. And I'm able to profit off of that a lot. Because the Dutch have something to deal with in the back line, and then the Spanish have something to deal with in the back line, and it screws up all of their um, defenses against me. So that just works out perfectly. Uh, so this phase I go, it looks like +2, Bang and ACH. So yeah, that's cool. And I also moved this fleet away from the Mughals, so the Mughals is probably pretty happy about that.
It
Yeah,
turns out by the time you actually managed to flank around to Circle Coast, the Dutch problem was gone.
yeah, yeah. It didn't matter. Um, a
But
lot
hey,
of
everything else in their style, so
it is a nice tile, yeah. Especially if I'm a piece with Mughals. Uh, a lot of my press this game with the Dutch, with Portugal, with Ming has been very like um stabby, where like I would just lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. And this stuff like this kind of proves my point when like I built this fleet into Void just to flank around, and then that ended up not being necessary because of some other thing that happened across the board. It's kind of like that where I could lie and lie and lie and stab and stab and stab, but there's always something else going on the other side of the board that forces their hand anyway. Uh,
I think this is a very nice colonial dynamic that you have stumbled upon. Uh,
yep. Um, and then just putting in support holds. Maybe I could have
it's
put some
notably,
hordes.
it's not always the case that you can do this. Like, quite often, if you lie to a bunch of colonials, they just talk to each other and then be like, okay, yes, this person's a problem. Let's go take them out, and then you're screwed. But coming into the game after there's already been some colonial shenanigans, and with like the mess that is colonial relations this game, it's
Yeah.
quite nice to take advantage of that. Because notably, you're never the most appealing target, like individually, right? Like if they all ganged up on you, then they could do some damage. But uh, alone, you have more units in the area than anyone else does individually, uh,
Okay.
which means that people aren't going to stop you.
Yeah, this is what Europe's like. It gets worse. But, um, yeah. Uh,
Notably, that Dutch army in Normandy was from a convoy that France did last phase, um, because that's what you do when Portugal's in your dot. I don't know. Kind of insane to me, but whatever.
uh, yeah, the one thing I would want to point out is that Spain, I have been completely honest with Spain the whole game, even if I am demanding their dots. So that's something as well. Let's move on to winter builds here. 50-50 split, one fleet, one army. Mughals doesn't have any builds. I love that. I love having weak allies on my border. Ming doesn't have any builds. I love having weak allies. Spain doesn't build in Manila. I don't know. The Dutch don't have anywhere to build, but they don't have any disband either. They're probably going positive, honestly. Yeah, they went positive again. but they can't build in Indonesia anymore. Um, and I also supported Spain into Java, which I wasn't supposed to do, at least according to my agreement with the Dutch. So that will come back later because the Dutch are not happy with me.
Okay,
So
but also, like, what are they gonna do, right? Like,
yeah,
they've left the area entirely. Like, and I mean, you can see that they do disband the Java fleet instead of retreating it somewhere to annoy you, and rebuild in Africa. So, like,
yeah,
it's not like they're actually relevant in the area anymore.
if they only have these four fleets, and they also have Chelis, whatever. Yeah. Going into spring, I have an amazing position to take Portugal's colony in Macau and to advance on to Ming. Um, so I think this spring I actually just told Portugal, like, hey, you lied to me about the vassal relationship thing. So I'm gonna take your colony down here because it's not helping me. And then after that, we could be friends in India or in Indonesia. Um, that was my pitch to Portugal. So then when we see the 47 moves, I'm obviously taking it. They just moved out. They did not contest. They didn't even try to support hold themselves. Moved to Luzon Strait. Now it's Spain's problem. Colonial dynamics. They worked out really well for me this game. And then simultaneously to that, me and Mughals do the double punch where they take Zineng and I take Chengdu, and we both get a dot. Uh, so yeah, and then I just move. This army doesn't have a whole lot to do. So I move it up.
And notably, Spain moves away from Manila this turn, and therefore loses the dot,
Yep.
which is very sad for Spain. Uh,
See, yeah, but they, yeah, works out for me though. um,
yes, works out for you.
works out for me. But the Spanish
Um,
position. Oh, go on.
yeah, so, well, if you look at North America right now, notably Spain is getting attacked by a very large Ute,
Yes.
um, and that's causing them to have to pull resources out of their Asia position, which has been going very well so far. And because of that, like their gains in Tokugawa and their colony in the Philippines are underdefended, uh, which will come into play later.
um, okay, let's see. We're on 47. Um, I'll say probably like the end of 48. We'll take a short break because
Sure.
that the last few phases are going to be longer to discuss because there's more units and stuff. Um, I advance. My goal here is to be in defensive positions where I can, prevent the Dutch from going to Cocos Basin. I can take Java Sea because that's also really important to me. Uh, just advance more fleets, get my guys out of Malacca straight into Malaya, not doing as much, just get them out. Um, Maybe a misplay on my part. I didn't want to go to the Indian Ocean because my goal was to, like, I didn't have any intention of taking Seychelles or Reunion or trying to advance into East Africa. I wanted to stick to like Southeast Asia and Indonesia. Um, I didn't want to deal with IT styles. Um, so that was my thinking there. Uh, Advancing to celibacy, anti-Portugal, but could also stab Spain, so that's cool. Core Kotubatu, that's a very good core for me to have. um, but it's like the only core I do for a long time. So but it is a good core.
Yep. We'll talk about cores later.
Yeah. All moves. Okay. I take the rest of Portuguese Macau. I have blues on straight, uh, which wasn't necessary at all, but I could maybe play it off as anti-Portugal, not anti-Spain, even though it doesn't really hold
It's
up.
just a good province. Yeah.
With Spain, I'm
And
gonna
it's
help.
not like Spain has units to do anything with it. So, like,
Yeah, I'm just gonna help
uh,
Spain take Manila back. Like I'm not gonna take
oh,
Formosa.
sure.
And then me and Mughals will hold ourselves. Tokugawa is in Peking. Uh, uh, Taking a look at Asia, it's a mess. Spain is in Tokugawa. Tokugawa is in Ming. Ming and Qing are like intertwined. Ming is getting eaten by main Mughals. Russia's getting devoured by the Safavids, and Inuits are getting like losing stuff to Qing and Spain. So it's just no one's like a clear winner up here.
Yeah, like this Inuit position is almost crushing, right? Because they are in Nivix and they have a retreat to Kingstown. So, and they're in Haishinoi and Ainu. So, like, they're doing so well, except North America is completely dying to Ute. Right? Like, they get stabbed here, and the fight's not going so well because Atha's on Ute's side. Uh, they're yeah, and then also Spain just decides to take their dot in Koyaks in Asia for I don't know why, but dots I guess. Like I don't think Inuit's done anything to Spain this entire game, but it's a free dot.
Yeah, Spain should probably be working with Inuits here, to be honest. But
Yeah, yeah. To be honest, they should be attacking Ute. Like, uh, but yeah. Uh,
this is when I started like looking over here because I'm like, damn, Spain is really losing hard over here. Because the French and the Dutch are advancing in the Caribbean, and they now have Portugal on side, and Shoshone obviously in the north. Um, Even though this is a really good like Spanish New World because England died, but it's not going to hold up against Shoshone, France, the Netherlands, and Portugal. So yeah, it's
yep.
not looking good. Let's go to that was fall moves 47. Let's go to the winter adjustments. So starting in the north, Ming, they only have 6 supply centers left, so they went down a lot. They're no longer a sizable power. Disbanded all their armies,
This is
which
the
is
beginning of Korea as a power,
yep.
which formerly known as Ming.
This is when
And
Fairy declared herself the Queen of Korea. Um, yeah, and then I built 4, uh, uh, mostly fleets because I'm still allied with Mughals, I guess. Uh, the Dutch can't build anything. Portugal builds a fleet, which is on the west coast. They're not really my problem. Tokugawa disbands. Spain doesn't have builds, or they can't build. Their cores are taken up. Um, and anything over nothing of significance. More Shoshone fleets. Yeah, Okay, let's do the spring of 48. So I lobby for Tokugawa support me to Nanking. They're like a two supply center, or like one supply center power. They don't have a lot of options. Doesn't mean it's their big threat, so they're obviously going to help me.
Yeah, if this gets them to survive, then I'd do that as Toku, right? Like, there's not really going to be any sort of dot you can sneak into, and like right now, King is occupied with Inuits. Ming is just mostly in Korea right now, and so does not really care. And yeah, so just finding someone who's going to sponsor you is a
Yep.
great call.
Ayutthaya is always nice to all of their vassal. Um, I'm just moving my armies up, and I'm still allied with the Mughals. But I'm gonna stab them. Their front is so open. I believe Mughals and Safavids are starting to arrange their tactics up here. Yes, like this border set between the two of them is arranged somehow. With like, I guess the Safavids are going to take Ahmedabad, and Mughals get Burhanpur in return, or something like that. Um, so I'm fighting Portugal as well, so I'm not too concerned about that. But or like I like that part of it that it's anti-Portugal, but I also don't like the fact that they're working together. So that's going to come into play next phase. Um,
Yep.
the Dutch are attacking me. They were not very happy about me supporting Spain to Java, even though I convinced Spain to let me have Java later. They weren't happy about that.
Well, like at some point, right? Like the Dutch are colonial, and they're going to have they are doing well elsewhere, so they're going to have these five fleets, and like if they're trying to peace out with Portugal, or like I don't know, let's look at South America or Africa or something. To see if they're fighting.
Nope.
Yeah, so if they're trying to peace out with Portugal, then like the only other option is to fight you. Um, and you did make them annoyed by breaking a deal, so they have justification.
They do. Yep.
Uh, and they have units that don't have anything else to do. So like, it's gonna happen. This is the flip side of colonial politics. When they peace, that means you're on the menu. Uh,
You are completely correct. Vlad made it. This is kind of me and Vlad get into a bit of a dancing match where I tell him I can't stab Spain because you're attacking me, and he tells me I'm attacking you because you're not stabbing Spain. So it's just like a back and forth. Um, that doesn't last forever. Uh, so yeah. Uh, and then I guess I support Spain to Makassar in return for me taking Java. I stop Portugal from sneaking into South China Sea. Uh, and then France also is filling the Indian Ocean. I am terrified right now that France and is going to start helping the Dutch and just like assault me from the high seas tile. That is my biggest fear right now. So even though I might have a really good stab on Spain, I'm too afraid to do it while they're filling up the Indian Ocean. I have a lot of fleets, but I don't know if I could take four colonial at the same time.
I mean, so uh, to to be fair here, like Palamine sure, if they decide to attack you from Indian Ocean, you're going to lose that. But the thing is, uh, bec- if you just sit in all the tiles that are like behind the tiles that border high seas, it becomes extremely hard to push again. And so, like, all of that trench warfare that was required to kick the Dutch out, which ultimately did not make much progress until the Dutch decided to give up on the area, is going to just happen in reverse. So, this is why once you leave an area, it becomes very hard to get back into the area.
Couldn't agree more. So yeah, they took Palembang this phase, but it's going to be super easy for me to take it back unless they France and the Dutch spend all of their support woes on there. Uh, and even then, they only get one top. So
Yep.
let's see. Let's do, and then yeah, this is fall move. So I saw the Safavids and the Mughals working together a little bit, and I was not happy because Ming was kind of dead. Portugal was on the ropes. We got Raj Mahendri. We were in position, like the Safavid Mughal Ayutthaya offensive against Portugal and India was being successful. So I was like, oh shoot, is Mughals gonna is it gonna be in a position where I'm trying to get Mughals to fight Safavids instead of me? Um,
Also, notably, right, like, what are you getting out of this offensive in India, if anything, right? Like,
nothing.
you you're getting the dots in Ming, and so like throwing extra support so that they support you into dots from Ming is great and all, but Ming is dead now. There's nothing more to be gained, and they have this wide open border with no units on it. Um, they're not doing particularly well, and it looks like Safavids came to the same conclusion as you did. Uh,
That's an accurate assessment. So I in my press, I told Safavids, hey, Mughals is gonna attack you after Portugal is dead. And then I told Safavids, hey, or no, I told Mughals, hey, Safavids is gonna stab you. So I tried to instigate some stuff, and I think that worked because even though they both pieced out last phase, they don't still don't trust each other. Like not with these borders. So I only got one out of it though, so it wasn't too crazy of a stab. But Kolkata, Sasram, and Kotak were all open, and then Central Asia is just a mess. So it works out.
yeah, and Migos is never gonna have a fleet to contest your fleets around Kolkata and Katak. So those centers are yours too eventually.
Low risk
Um,
stab.
yeah. Like
Um,
worst case comes to worst, you peace out and they do nothing because they can't. Uh,
okay, so what else? Ferry does some like amazing press. I don't even know how this happened in Lanzhou, where
that's good play.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how she pulled that off, but this is some like magic right here. And then she's pouring Korea for homeland. And then Spain. Oh my God, Spain. You're supposed to tap Kyoto here.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
Spain.
so, yeah. This was a painful bit about Spain is that they got this incredible Asia position, right? Like they have all but two of the dots that Tokugawa starts with, right? Like, and then they just don't commit any units to defending it, because they pull them away for use elsewhere, and as a result, you get these walk-ins that really should not be happening. Uh,
This one was so prevent. They just need to tap Kyoto, and then even if Ming stabs for Osaka, you still go even with them. But it
yeah,
just come on. Um, and then if we take a look at Spain is also shown as getting stronger. Got Mexico City. I don't want to pronounce that. They got Hawaii. So now Shoshone is starting to consolidate North America.
Yeah.
Okay. Back
But
to
also, like, where are all of Spain's units? Because they're not in Asia. They're not in. They're not really in the Americas, right? Like, there's. If you look at Africa, like, look at North Africa.
yeah, it's
This is where they're keeping all of their armies. Like, this is why their Asia position has nothing to defend it, because they have 5 armies in North Africa
in
with
the
no
Sahara
dots.
Desert. There's 4 armies in the Sahara Desert. Um, I think
Yeah.
they're also.
So,
Go ahead.
interesting Spain play to say the least. Uh, yeah, they keep these armies on for like the entire game. Uh, yeah. So.
I think they're also slightly overbuilt in the Caribbean and South America. Uh, maybe not.
Yeah, but they're also doing relatively well. I mean, like they're losing stuff, but they were doing relatively well. So like
Yeah,
this
that's
doesn't seem that bad to me. It's the Africa stuff that's like why? Like not only how did you lose all this stuff, but how did you get the army there in the first place? Like why are you in JLo?
yeah. This is fall moves, and this is a. Now that I'm looking at this is actually like really strange for fall moves because they're evacuating Tangier and they're not like they're supporting themselves into Iran, which is not a supply center. They should be like going for Tripoli or Tunis or something.
Also, they can't actually take Tripoli because they don't have the fleet support, right? Like Ottomans has 2 support holds on it, and so like they're, what they're doing is they're moving in position to take Tunis and then take Tripoli. But as a result of that, Portugal just walks into the odds.
Is that sea resorts to Tangier or is that just straight to Gibraltar? I can't tell.
It's going to. I
Let's
don't
just check that.
know why they would tap Tangier unless they have like godly guesses. Nope, it's Tangier. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's that's a lot of Spanish dots that got given to Portugal.
Um, the other important thing, um, the Netherlands stabs France. Um, they timed it well because France was convoying from Nantes into Iberia to get a flank on Spain, and then the Netherlands just walks into Nantes, so France can't like build a fleet there, and like the whole Roman Empire area is open. So good
Yeah,
stab, and they got Plymouth as well. So two dot stab in Europe with more to come. Um, and then I guess they also took some other stuff in the Caribbean, 2 more dots, and they tried to go to Reunion, but France covered it, probably because of my fleet. But
yeah. Yeah,
so
because otherwise, like if they actually suspected the Dutch, they would have tried to take Seychelles, but they didn't. So this is, although notably, France now has a retreat because Asher enforced their fleet, so they will get to retreat into Seychelles from
yep,
smaller
France
bases.
gets their revenge. Um, and then once again, the Dutch position, if you call it that, in Indonesia, I get to roll over their Palembang for the second time. Um,
Yep.
I only go +1 this phase because I got Bao, I got Nanking, but I lost Palembang. So I only get 1 build, which comes into play later because my cores are now farther away from my front line. So it becomes, you kind of see the ripple effect of that, where I could keep advancing, but I don't have enough units to backfill everything. And I'm sure Azabelle will. I'm sure you'll have more
Well,
comments on
we
that.
will talk more about cores later.
So let's do winter builds, and then we'll. This is retreats, and then we'll take a short break. Ming gets to build and lands out because of their magic. I decide to build Fleet Cochibatu, preparing for a Spanish stab in the near future. Let's see, 3 fleets out of Shoshone. And then France and the Dutch are going to war. And then I convinced Portugal to stab Spain, and I said, "Hey, if you disband Palawan, I'll stab Spain." That was my pitch, and they did it. So yeah. Awesome.
What's funny about that pitch is that it's like I will start Spain, but I definitely do not trust you in the slightest.
Yeah.
Because like normally it's like keep powering on and help me stab Spain, but no, it's like this is like I will start Spain if you have nothing in the area to interfere with me.
Exactly. Get out of here. Let me just roll over their free centers myself. You're not getting anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So we will be back. Okay.
Tune in now.
Yep.
And okay, cool. So we are live again. I'm recording. So let's go. We just did winter adjustments of 1648, and we're going to move on to 1649. So, where do I begin? Where do you think we should start?
This is an interesting move set. So first question, is this a stab on Safavids or is this a greed?
I don't remember. I think this was agreed. I think they really wanted me to hold, like, not take Ring Pung Pa, because this is when like we start talking about who's going to be in the impunity and who's not going to be. So they were like, oh, I really need the builds, so that they could stab the Ottomans and all this stuff, and I didn't care.
Well, notably, in order for Safavids to get into impunity, like this is an issue with Safavids, is that they not only need all of the stuff that they currently have, but they also need to push really far into one direction. So, like, they need to have all of the Indian subcontinent, or like the rest of Russia and parts of Qing, or like major chunks of Ottomans, and likely multiple of those. So, if we don't want Safavids in the impunity, then we should make sure that they cannot get these dots and we take them instead.
Exactly. So I was not doing Safavids any free favors, and it got aided by the fact that Mughals, after me and Safavids both stabbed them, their game was basically over. They didn't press. At least they didn't press with me. But all of their moves were extremely favorable to me. They could have tried to cover Kodak.
It looks like they didn't press with anyone. Like a lot of these moves are just holds.
Yep.
Or
But it is notable that like they're not defending against me at all.
notable. They're very pro you holds because none of their units were next to you, and their dots are next to you. So yeah, this is walk into Kotak is very nice here. I mean, you do have a force on it next year and next turn anyways, but this way you can go for Sasser instead.
Yep. I step Spain. Pretty much just advance everything. Zamboanga, Sulusi, South China Sea, go take Formosa. Since they're moving away, they can't even take Formosa back. And fortunately,
Hmm.
they do a good counter move and they do Manila to Luzon Strait. So now, since they moved out of Luzon Strait, they can now dot Hainan. Um, but they had their really good Asia position, and it's going to start to go away, especially with Shoshone moving in.
Also, notably, Spain has already shown that what they really care about this game is keeping their armies in North Africa, and not necessarily keeping a uniton in Asia. So even if they do dot Hainan, they'll probably take it off
Yep.
if they're disbanding.
And that's also part of the other thing that led me to stab is like Spain is not doing a good job of defending their stuff in the Pacific. So like, maybe I like Spain or I want to ally with them, but if they're just giving other people dots and they're just going to get rolled over, like I wanted some of that too, like
Yeah,
um
yeah, the dots are going to go to someone. Might as well be you.
yep. Um and keeping with the trend, Northern Asia is just so balkanized. You have tiny Russia, tiny Ming, tiny-ish Qing, tiny Shoshone, dead Mughals, and then Spain is dying too. There's just and one supply center Toku. It's
This looks like to me is an alternation of everyone trying to kill Ching, or at least like the everyone about Russia, and then them all stabbing each other and trying to find amongst themselves, and then Ching just takes everything back. like, like Ching has been in this position before a couple of years ago.
and then um oh, I tell Portugal that I'm going to support them. I think it was still Slay at this point. I tell them I'm going to support them into Makassar, and then I don't. Um, they wouldn't have gotten it
Yeah,
anyway unless I support them with
you want
both.
those
So
dots.
yeah, but it helps me keep their back off me. So yeah, that's probably like my fifth lie to Slay. Um, but it's diplomacy. I take Palembang back. Dutch can't do anything about that. Um, there's like a billion units on Palembang to make sure they can't retreat away. Army, the army that we convoy or that you convoyed is still making use. That's awesome. um, and then Phil Bay of Bengal, it's a good tile to be in. Tapping Sunda Strait, the usual stuff. Yeah. Anything else going on in the world? Shoshone moving against France.
Yep.
Inuit dying.
Now,
Looks like
one
they.
thing to note about North America is like you're sort of see this, but for the France, like it might look like as the France position, there's this massive Ute and you're completely outmatched. But there is a stalemate line roughly where like -4 Detroit, but like roughly where France is, where Ute will just be unable to push it without fleets. So like the real play as France here is to try to form that line and then basically just stall out Ute. Now, the part issue for France is that they still haven't finished killing Inuit yet, so they still have trouble in their back line, and they also don't have full builds in the area. So we'll see if they're able to stop Ute here or not.
Good eye. Um, and then Spain just also completely rolls over. Belize and St. Augustine both get taken. Um,
Yep.
I think that's about it. France is fighting the Dutch. Portugal and the Dutch are seemingly allied. Europe is a mess. Look at this. What is going on? um, yeah. So then this is the fall moves. Um, this is a Safford stab. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm not doing them any favors. If they're too busy fighting Mughals and Russia, it would be, what's the word I'm looking for? Suboptimal for me to enable them to kill Russia and Mughals, like, without
Yeah,
contesting
like
them.
this is your chance to get a hold of the rest of those Ming dots. Um, and also right now they're not able to focus on you, but if they kill Russia or if they get rid of Mughals in the south, then they'll have a flank, and then you won't be able to hold this area. And so getting the jump now is good. Although this does uh, definitely worsen south of Nations.
Yes, it does.
I don't think they're happy about
No, they're
this.
not. Um, but yeah, they for now at least they can't do anything about it since Mughals are still strong and Russia is still alive, so they can't do anything right now. But it is it's definitely hedging my bets that like it's better to attack them now than and like make sure that they and get these head starts now rather than hoping that they're kind of on my side later.
Mhm.
Um,
The
and
other thing to look at is if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see that we have this line of armies, but then behind that, there's absolutely nothing. And our cores are now very far away. And so that's the other thing you have to write about is like right now there's a line, but this position can get overextended very quickly. Um, this is also why the Spanish fleet in Hainan, if they keep it on, is very annoying because there are no units nearby to deal with that fleet.
well, we could give the units that I build something to do because they're decades away from the front.
Sure.
So we'll give them something
But they're also at least a year away from Hainan.
to do. Yeah, more like a year and a half. Like
So
Aodong takes like
yeah,
two. Like it's like there's Spain really hit the jackpot with that. Just open.
yeah,
And then it's also kind of bad because I have armies in like Nanking and Chengdu who kind of want to push north, but there's no fleets to back them up in like East China
yeah,
Sea area. Um, Instead, we have Korean fleets or Ming fleets. So anyway, I dot Ming or not dot. I dot Spain. You, I mean,
yep.
taking
It's
their
just good play.
dots. I think I promised Portugal support again and then didn't do it again. Um,
I mean, at this point, like I don't think Portugal is expecting it to happen,
yeah,
but they just don't have much to do with that fleet. So
yeah, but it wouldn't have done anything anyway since it got tapped. But
well, it is cutting the Spanish support. So like otherwise Spain would have forced
yeah,
Celebesi, which would have been nice for them, because it gets you units away from their stuff.
yeah. But me supporting Portugal would not have led to Portugal getting Makassar.
Yeah, yeah,
And bouncing Halmahera was also good because I don't want Spanish. I don't want Spain in there. Um, and
yep,
Shoshone is slowly creeping up. They're in Chukchis and now they're in Koryaks.
yeah. Because notably, all the time while Spain is sort of anyway, Ute is now pushing in and taking Spain's dots on the other side of the world
Yep,
in Asia.
because Spain is doing just random bounces with Ming. Um,
Well, and they're keeping on a bunch of units in Africa and Europe while that position is absent. Like they still have all these armies.
and then I don't know, Mapuche is down here for some reason, even though they're dead in the homeland, but they're in Australia.
Yeah,
Um, France and the Dutch are fighting it out, or not? Yeah, France and the Dutch. The Dutch are in across a basin. Bunch of shuffling of fleets. Um, I want no part of this. I just take Palembang back and then leave them to fight it out. Whatever.
Yep, good that they're not focused on you. Uh,
Let's see. Anything else this phase? This is the fall. Should we get this scoreboard? Let's just read off the scoreboard from this phase if we have it readily available. Let's see.
or you can go to winter and then see the.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the percentages is really what I'm looking for.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so this is 1649. So I just went +8. Bunch of, I took 3 Mughal dots, actually 4 if you count this. Took a bunch of Spanish dots, took Palembang back, so I'm +8. I only have 6 centers to build them though, to the lack of cores. So the leaderboard is like Shoshone over here pushing into the Pacific is 90.3%, and then I'm at 85.7%. And then the Netherlands is at 66.7%, and then it's all down from there. So really, it's looking like me and Shoshone are reaching up for the top, and there's a few others like the South American power and Safavids and Sweden are the ones who might be able to stop the duo or solo or whatever happens.
Yeah.
So let's move on to winter. Yep, here's, you could see that. So I build 2 armies, 4 fleets. Not much else I could build. I'm going to build everywhere, especially when I have too many builds. Mughals continues
Yep.
to just disbands. Yeah, I guess it's more like they really want to stick it to Safavids, which works fine for me. Ming builds an army. I'm cool with that. I really don't want Fleet West Coast Pyongyang. That's not good for me. Spain disbands. This is where it gets controversial because Spain disbanded all of their fleets that they could potentially use against me. Um,
So with this, like, were you able to press this and get Spain to want to do this? Or is this just like as big as of a surprise to you as the rest of the board? Because like, notably, while Spain is currently losing, like these fleets keep those dots for a long time, right? Like, you don't have a unit within a year of getting to Hainan, right?
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
um,
they kept on North Africa.
yeah, they kept on the North Africa armies because they want to control all the access to that impassable tile, I guess.
So my press with Spain was like, I said some like bogus about how like, oh well, I had to attack you because you weren't pressing as much, which is true. They weren't pressing as much, and that was a factor in me stabbing them, among the other things. But they messaged me like an hour or two before the deadline, and they said like, hey, it's fine. You don't need to keep me alive. Like I'm just going to disband. I would rather you, go and get the win. And Spain was definitely like their thinking was definitely that the faster the game ended, the better their victory supply center count would be. So when Spain is doing moves like this, they're thinking, okay, Ayutthaya is going to win. They're in first or second place. If I allow them to take my dots instead of the Netherlands or someone else, then that will have the game end sooner, and Spain will end with a higher percentage on the board. That was the Spanish thinking.
I
But
think that's an understandable strategy, but the slight issue with that here is that, like, unless this is going to lead to an IU win this turn, by losing all of these dots, it means you're going to have to do the same number of disbands, if not more, next year, and those are going to have to come from somewhere else, right? It's like, this is why sacrificing the positions that are holding a lot of dots is typically not a good idea for keeping your final score up, because what it does is it takes a winning position and turns it into a losing position, and your other positions which are losing are still losing. Right? Like keeping the dots on keeping the units around is not going to help them like start to grow again, and so that's why typically I would not advise doing this. Even if, like, I mean, okay, unless I'm Ayutthaya, then yes, please give me your dots. But
I'm getting a little ahead of myself, though. This was the reasoning they gave a bit later on. But for now, they just like messaged me, and I didn't even get back to them in time. And they were just like, and then they just disbanded this. So
yeah,
yeah.
well, like Spain had a lot of disbands, so they had to choose some area to get rid of. But what they could have done is gotten rid of North Africa, which was not getting any dots, and kept on this Pacific position, which was still quite decent, even if it was not going like in a favorable direction. With Ute building a bunch of fleets and pursuing them across the lengths of the world. Yeah.
And then the last thing to note is Ute is now building fleets in the Atlantic.
Yep, they got a core off, which is always very nice.
Yeah. Let's go to spring of 49. Is that where we are? No, we're on
50.
50. Yeah. Okay, so I'm obviously going to take all the Spanish dots. I'm going to support myself to Makassar. I'm not even going to
Don't
let
want Portugal
Portugal,
getting rid
yeah,
of
like
the
I'm
dot.
not even going to entertain Portugal getting any of that as mine. Move up to Sunda Strait, just, you know, good move, have your fleets farther up. I want it to seem, this was a weird play by me where I like pulled Portugal out, move out of Bay and Bengal, but then I didn't. But I also decided not to dot them, to like sort of stay defensive, but also not necessarily stab them, which is just like, I don't think it really accomplished that much, but it doesn't really matter. Nothing's going on
Is
over
this
here
still
anyway.
say as Portugal?
What's up?
Does
Oh,
this still say as
this is still
Portugal?
Slay. This is actually the turn. Portugal subs out after this turn, actually, yeah. But this is still Slay. And that would be like the 17th time I lied to him about like moving Bay of Bengal out. So whatever. I do some cores. I core Kolkata and
Yeah.
Kotak. And yeah. And I'm moving up into Gondwana while the Safavids are still dealing with Delhi and the rest of Mughals. And I
Yeah.
backfill Lanzhou just to get as much out of Safavids as I can while they're still distracted.
Yeah, Safavids did not like this. I
They did.
in your fault. I'm
They really didn't like it.
impressed.
But I think my ultimatum was like, hey, if you want to work together, you got to stab the Ottomans. You're not just going to get your entire victory supply center account out of Asia. And it took them quite a while to stab the Ottomans. So, and they did finally. But
Yeah.
they are quite behind.
The hard part about pushing the Ottomans here is that, like, if you look at the border, Ottomans have this fleet in Sea of Azov, which like orders all of the dots that you want to take as Safavids, and you can't do anything about it because it's a fleet. If you only have armies. So pushing in past this coast is very hard.
That should be done though.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. I guess they're also bouncing Portugal. I don't know what the whole relationship is here. This support, I talked to Ajuran. Is that how you pronounce it?
Mm-hmm.
I talked to them after, and they said like the Safavids didn't even tell them that they were going to support Obioda's Somali base. Like it was a gunboat support. So I don't know how well the Safavids were playing globally, but
Like I mean, normally if your unit isn't doing anything, like sure, like if the bounce in Mahara was ranged, then sure. But if the bounce in Mahara was not intentional, then you should just be supporting your unit in. Uh, I think since they're stabbing Ottomans, they don't want Ajuran to be against them. And in the off chance that Ajuran is moving like Somali base in, then like I guess it gets Hawaii in there, which is better because it's not in the dot. But like, if it's just holding, that's fine. Who cares?
I talked to Ajuran after this, and they seemed completely bewildered by the move. But maybe that's just a uh, like a press tactic to make it seem like they're not coordinated as well. I don't know.
No, they probably were. Safavids probably had nothing to do with the move and just threw a sport because why not?
Yeah. And then Dutch and France are still fighting, and Portugal is kicking the Mapuche out.
Yep. Move you too.
Let's see. So Portugal and the Dutch are still sort of allied here. Um, but actually, did we look at the winter? The Dutch built this army here and this army here, which I saw that as like, okay, that's anti-Portugal.
Okay, yeah, that's a stab. I mean
Uh,
the yeah.
but I messaged the Dutch, and the Dutch were like, no, it's not a stab, tee hee. They were like, no, we're still working together. And like, I talked to Portugal, and they seemed uneasy about the Dutch. So I was hoping that Portugal would kind of see the stab coming, or at least yeah, that it was a stab and that more is on the way. But unfortunately, I don't think the Portugal player at the time realized that. So anyway, the Dutch just devoured so many Portuguese dots. They get St. Helena basically guaranteed. They can guarantee Benguela. Cabo Verde did I? I'm not going to pronounce that. Um, and then they also have a good position to take some more dots down here.
Yeah. And
And they,
notably, like this is a very good stat, but it also there's a bit of a timer on it because like okay, so in West Africa, you're just crushing, you take all of the dots, great. But if you look at South America, um, and you'll see that Guarani has consolidated the entire South, and the only thing that's really holding them back right now is this like line of Portuguese units that are all holding or trying to hold. Um, and so when you stab that, sure you'll get Salvador and maybe Minas, maybe Nokugo, but what's also very likely is Guarani takes the rest, and then now they're the ones pressuring you, and you need to commit more units to defending that. Now there are lines to hold the northern part of South America, but this is something to keep in mind that like this is a play to get to impunity with or without Grani before that becomes a big issue.
Is this is 50. I'm trying to
450
remember.
spring, right?
Yeah, okay. Um, yeah, the Dutch do this. I think they were partly probably informed by the fact that me and Shoshone were quickly approaching the Victory Supply Center count, so they need to make plays.
Yeah.
Um, and the Dutch are also at war with France too. So now the Dutch are at war with France, Portugal, and Spain. But then, like, Spain and France are also still at war, and Spain and Portugal are still at war. There's just so many colonial infighting. Um, but yeah.
Yep.
And then that's just a map. Okay. So then let's move on to the fall. So I was talking to Shoshone and I was saying, hey, um, Spain is Spain wants the game to end as soon as possible so that they retain their victory supply center count. So we should use that and oblige them and achieve a duo, which is well within reach, utilizing Spain giving us supply centers. Um, so this move set by Spain caused a lot of controversy because they're giving Shoshone a lot of dots. And there's also some of that in the Caribbean, I think, like giving them Havana.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and Shoshone wanted to include the Dutch in the impunity. So there was some tension there where I wanted to just go for the duo and just, get our win. Shoshone wanted to keep the Dutch in the impunity, and so they went along with me and Spain's like thing of like, okay, let's end the game, but they didn't go through with it over here in the east. Like they could have taken this one dot Katuba, and that would have, and there were some other moves they could have done, I think, to like have secured the win, and they didn't do that.
Oh yeah. Also, if you look at France here, right? Like in North America. So last trades we missed this, but Ute managed to get into Fort Marie. And because of that, and because France does not have anything to back it up, because France needed to get a unit to Seneca to form the line, because of that, France's stalemate line is now broken, or like the line that they need to form is now broken. And so long term, they will not be able to hold this position, which is very unfortunate because France got extremely close to making it. If they had just gotten this build, like guess correct, and then built a unit in Seneca, Ute would have been walled off of that entire area. So,
Yep.
yeah,
And now they get to retreat to Mohawk.
yeah,
um, so
yeah.
yeah. So anyway, yep.
This is
Yeah.
unfortunate for France.
Um, yeah. So that's Quebec. But yeah, Ute did not make the moves that would have secured a duo. Um, in other news, yeah, I'm still just taking Macassar Monado. Spain loses Danny. I get Bonin, and in exchange, I give Shoshone support to Kyushu. I dot Peking. Tokugawa can't retaliate. Um, and then I continue to support Safavid's enemies. um,
Yep.
and then I can finish my cores and hold down here, push another fleet into the Indian Ocean, whatever. Uh, as for the rest of the board, Ajuran is making some progress in East Africa. Um, whatever's going on over here, Iberia's a mess. whatever.
Yep.
And yeah. So let's move on to winter. So I'm going to read
Yep. So
off the things. So I'm at 114%, Shoshone is at 112, Dutch is at 88, Guarani is at 78%, Safavids is at 67, and Sweden is at 64. So
yep.
at this point, there's a six-way impunity between the six of us proposed, which is a very big one, considering that, like, and it was brought up that Sweden doesn't have a good shot at victory because they're allied with the Dutch and they could only really expand down here or into like North America, but Shoshone's there, so there's not their positions
Yeah,
aren't like
notably, Sweden and Safavids do not have the expansion possibility. Like, unless they manage to crush Ottomans quickly, which it does not look like it's happening, they do not have the expansion potential to make it to impunity anytime soon.
yes. Um, and also like Guarani and the Dutch are like mutually exclusive down here. Like they're gonna fight
Well,
us.
there's at least some dots from Portugal, and Grani is able to get very close. So like Grani can get to almost 100%, and then maybe get a couple dots elsewhere. And there were talks about this going into the next phase. So because I also sub in after this phase.
Yep. So I input these builds and the impunity or the surrender vote to the six of us fails because Shoshone votes no. And then Azabelle, you take over.
Yep. So first, like coming into this position, mostly what I'm looking at is like where do I go next? And I see that there's like a large amount of dots to the south of me with Portugal, and they're not particularly well defended, especially given that I have all these fleets in Southeast Asia that are right next to their centers, or like 2 moves away. And then the other thing is in India, they don't have any fleets on this coast that I would attack them from. So I'm like, okay, I think I should go after Portugal here. And I try to say like, oh, and the other thing is if you look at China,
Where?
there's a noticeable lack of armies defending the dots up north. So like, if you zoom in a bit, like just zoom in on Chengdu.
The Chengdu.
Yeah, so
Oh yeah.
like, yeah, so I have these 6 dots, and they're kind of defended by 4 armies, which is not great. And if I push out in any direction, because these dots are so central, there's always going to be another direction that can come in and attack me. So mostly I was just pressing Safavids to like just go after Russia. I promised Russia support into Turfan to slow down Safavids. And I think I gave Hohot to the Qing here, because it's not like I can really get it, and if I go for it, I just leave myself exposed. Yeah, so that's mostly my thinking going into the spring. If you want to go to moves.
Okay, let's see.
So at the very start of spring, Portugal comes to me and is like, you didn't have to like lie to me and stab me. I'm can just do what I was going to do earlier. And notably, this isn't Slay, this is a new player who subbed in, I think, last fall. And then I'm pretty sure like Netherlands promised to like limit their stab and then stabbed for more anyway. So they are very mad at the Netherlands. And so they're like, I will throw you as many centers as you need as long as you cut Netherlands from the impunity. So I'm like, sure, I'll take these centers. And at this point, impunity talks were mostly about a four-way. So it was supposed to be Self, Ute, Netherlands, and Grani. And the big limiting factor on that was getting Grani over the line. And like theoretically, I was supposed to keep Safavids in check and make sure that they didn't block the impunity. But so the issue that came up, actually, let's look at South Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, so as part of this, there's an attempted convoy of Grani into Africa. And the idea was that they take a center off of Portugal. This gives them one extra center, so the Dutch don't have to give them a center. And that way they'll be able to make it to 100% of the SCC. But Portugal dislodges the fleet and the convoy fails. And so as a result of this, there is no longer a way to get Urani over the line by the end of this phase. So instead, there becomes discussions of a three-way without Grani. But and so basically, if we go into the fall moves here, Netherlands. If you look at South, Netherlands stops Grani here. To try to get to a three-way. And then the other thing that's slightly more relevant to me is if we look at Asia, if we look at Safavids in particular, Safavids decides to go in step. And so actually this happened last turn in the spring. That's why they're in Singpa in the Himalayas. And basically, what they explained to me is, like, not only did they not like the like previous stab that came from you, but also they were like, you stabbed me when you were going +8, and you only had 6 cores to build in. So like, it's like you didn't even need the units. It was just a stab because of greedy, and so I'm gonna fight you now. And that was my last bit of meaningful press with Safavids. This game. So you notice that a lot of stuff bounces. I lose Sassaram. That's guaranteed. And I make the move into Alathbad because I know that I'm building next year or this year, so those 2 cores that you made in India are going to have space for armies. And then in the north, I'm trying to defend Nzao and Ning. And so I do this moveset, which only fails if Gobi supports into Linzhou, or if I somehow get into Wiggerstan, which I was not expecting. And then I was trying to get Ching to tap Gobi for me. Ching does not, in fact, have Gobi, but it's fine because Safavids focuses Russia instead. And now I'm in Wiggerstan for some reason. Yeah. And then also, Ming or Korea breaks the core in picking, so no getting units up there soon. And then the final thing, so this is if you look at the Ryukyu Islands, so basically I think we got in there last year because it was a Ming center or Spanish center or something. And late in the phase, Ute comes to me and says, or no, so basically, sorry, during the impunity talks, I'm like, hey Ute, can I have Ryukyu Islands? And they're like, but fine, right? Because like they're going plus a lot here. They have a lot more builds, and so I'm like, why don't you give me that dot? And as part of this, I was supposed to give work, which is in Australia, to Johnny. Like I was supposed to do some cuts on Portuguese units to support them in. But since we're stabbing Grani here, none of that actually happens. Instead, I think Netherlands goes into Chiloe. But anyway, so this is the year that UT decides to make a solo attempt, and so they support Ming into Ryukyu instead. And part of this, and I was just coring boning because I wanted to have a core, so I did not cut the support and temporarily lose Ryukyu. So if we go to the scoreboard at the end of this round, we'll see that Ute, I think, yeah, so they go plus a lot here. Yeah.
So Uche has 11 builds. Ayutthaya has 6. But that's 2 from last year as well. Although Shoshone is also keeping some over from last year. Netherlands has +9. Is there anything like specific you're looking for?
Well, so I think if I remember correctly, Ute got to like 141% or 44% or something like that.
So
and I was at 121%.
Yep, you got it right.
And so this and Ute also stabs Netherlands on this turn. So I think in the Caribbean they take Bahamas. And they were supposed to give them St. Augustine, but they didn't. They took Catawba. So yeah, so Ute went for the solo gear, but did not get super close. Like there's a couple centers of margin because I think we were like 20% difference. So yeah, and so at the end of this, it's Ute, myself, and the Netherlands. And then there's Grani, who's kind of the main blocker, who I think is at like 88% or something like that, because they got stopped by Netherlands. But the issue with this Netherlands stab is that long term, Netherlands does not win this fight. And this kind of ends up hurting them later on the line because now Grani has nowhere else to go except into the Netherlands. They thought they were getting thrown some dots in order to make it to impunity with the Netherlands, but that's clearly not happening. And so now the Netherlands has to deal with this. Yeah. And then one final thing, if you look just like at Ayutthaya, you know that there's a big line of units like that all get bounced because of these soft units, but basically, I'm just trying to get these armies up somewhere so that they can be useful because they're quite a ways away. And because right now the Safavid front is a little underfunded, but that will change next year. So if we go into builds,
that's not it.
this is an interesting one. Yeah. So Portugal decide. So Portugal has a lot of disbands here because they threw Indonesia to be last round. And so now, like if you look at Australia, now I have almost all of Indonesia, and the army that got convoyed to Sarawak earlier is now in Newfoundland in Australia, because that's where armies go, right? I was going to use it to take work. Yeah, and maybe color in the outback, but that's not a priority.
It is a good
Yeah.
idea,
So
though. Coloring in the AFRAC.
yep. Just reflexing. I don't know. But yeah. So basically, Portugal not only disbands Indonesia, but they also just disband all of India. And this caught me by surprise because, like, I had like done a cut for them so that they could get into Burhanpur last year, and they also took Surat from Safavid. So like they were making progress here. And sure, they were giving me like Rajahmundry and Madras, but like they were making progress in this area. And so when they just disbanded this whole thing, I was like, oh shoot, now I have to make sure that I get these centers instead of Safavids getting these centers. I did do a press to Safavids saying like, hey, what if we just like stop fighting for a year so that we can split these centers and like take all of them instead of bouncing each other out of dots and then not taking all of them. But they did not respond. So yeah. So basically, now there's a whole bunch of neutrals in India.
Did
What's funny is that they keep on the one fleet in Cochin, which is to spite the Dutch.
I wonder, like, it's almost not even like a victory supply center play at that point, because like if you're playing for
Yeah, they told me very explicitly that they were playing for me to cut the Dutch out of the impunity.
yeah,
And this continued, and like also notably in terms of the talks at this point, like I've mentioned duo to Ute, but Ute was still very much like I want to get the Netherlands in on this. And so like part of the justification, I was trying to like essentially get to a position where like I figured that if I could present a duo impunity to Ute, then they would take it, right? Like sure they might not be wanting to go for it diplomatically, but like if it ends the game with a win, then they'll most people will grab that. So basically I was telling Portugal like you should give me more of your centers so that I can like essentially present a duo to Ute, so that you can cut Netherlands. And so Portugal was still happy with me. Uh, and yeah,
yeah,
I did not expect all of these disbands in India though. But yeah, I think they chose to keep on stuff in Iberia and in North Africa instead.
North Africa.
Yeah.
Willy-nilly, they all want to keep North Africa.
Yeah, and I know what's going on like this game.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
Spring.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so let's start with the software front, I guess. Yeah, so here, because it's the two new builds in Kolkata and Kotak, I now outnumber the Safavids on this front.
You got him on the run.
And yeah, I kind of have them surrounded. And so I make the moves to guarantee Safaram back. Because they go back and cover Delhi, I'm now in Odd, or I don't know, sense that, but like, it means that my army gets pushed forward more. I do a bit of a conservative move and go to Impunga and support that instead of like going into Bhutan. which is nice because going into Bhutan would have gotten bounced. And then Ava gets bounced, and my armies are sad because they're all on the line. The other thing that I wasn't expecting was them to bounce me out of Berhampur, which is the Portuguese dot, because I thought they would go for Hyderabad and then try to support themselves into Berhampur in the fall. But I guess they would bounce me out to make it so that I couldn't get any of these inland Portuguese dots. Also, I was looking at this, but I unfortunately did not have any armies available to convoy, and setting up the convoy into southern India would have taken too long, and I did not. I thought the game would be over by that time, so I did not go for that.
Convoy
If we
into
want to move,
southern India would be pretty
hmm?
good. A convoy into southern India would be pretty good, but yeah, the positioning.
Yeah. So I want, yeah. So one of the things I looked at was convoying into Palakkad, which is next to Madras. And so that would have involved the Tavoy fleet going to Andaman Sea and the Sukhothai army going to Pegu. But I wasn't sure that Circle Coast would stay in the same spot. And I also thought that the game would end this year. And so, I mean, it's not like those units were doing anything anyways, but yeah, I think I sent them up to China instead. Yeah, so if we go down south, so I decide to dot reunion from France because France no longer really has the strength to contest anything. They're being attacked by Azeran right now, and so I figured it's just a free dot. Also, Azeran told me that they were not going to do anything with the Indian Ocean, and so I was like, great, I'll just put my fleets in the Indian Ocean. Also, this way, later I can stab the Dutch for Ceylon if I need to. Because if we're going for the duo, that's how you do it. The other thing was just moving into more Portugal dots. Now, since the whole four-way chat collapsed, there's no more of a requirement to give someone else work, so I can just take it because it's kind of mine anyway. I core Flores just in case the game continues and I need a core in the area. Although also it's not like that fleet's doing anything anyways. If we go north a bit, I send a single fleet into NPO. This is explicitly against my agreement with Ute, but I figured that the only real threat to me this game is Ute, and so if I just bounce them out of an NPO space, or if I get in and then can sneak into one of their back provinces, then it's probably only upside because I don't think they're gonna attack me right now, and even if they do, I don't lose anything. And so at least I don't lose anything right now. The other thing is Ute built a whole bunch of Pacific fleets on the previous turn, and I figured that if the game went on for 2 to 3 more years, those fleets would come in my direction.
I agree
Yeah.
with that assessment.
And then the other thing I'm doing here is making moves to blow up the Ryukyu fleet. So Ming did come to me and asked for support back to Kyushu, and I said yes, but also they stabbed me last phase, and so I didn't really have a reason to trust them, and this way I just consider the fleet is no longer an issue. Yeah. And then you'll notice that this has the nice side effect of bouncing Ute, which is means that they actually don't make progress with their fleets in that bit, which is nice to see. Yeah. And then in China, northern China, it's just more of a bit of, so like this is a bit more of like moves to make sure that I can have a good shot of retaking Lanzhou if it falls, because I was looking at the defensive stuff, and if Safavids goes for it, I can't really stop them. Or at least the guesses are all really bad. So I just didn't, and they went to Russia instead, which was nice. So, and then also I tried to sneak an army behind their lines with Ugarstan, and they self-bounced. So it's fine. I didn't need it, but it's nice that those units aren't doing anything else. So there's also on this front, time is to my advantage because I have all these armies coming up from the south. Whereas Safavids does not have the same sort of reinforcements. And so now, like, the longer this fight goes on, the better it is for me. Yep. That's mostly the spring.
Fall?
Yep. So, yeah, so before we look too closely at moves, in terms of the press here, basically, this is when I finally got Ayutthaya to like seriously consider the duo, because it became very apparent that I was going up a lot, right? Like I'm gaining off of the Safavids, I'm gaining off of Portugal still. If I want to, I can stab the Dutch. I have this French dot that I'm taking. I have Ryukyu, which is a Ming dot that I'm taking. So, like, I told them I was going +7, +8. I actually was going +9 if I kept all those, because I figured that I could also get one of either Burhanpur or Delhi. But that was underestimating my dot total was just a negotiation tactic, because I figured that it wouldn't be enough, wouldn't be by too much, so that like they think I'm lying, or that they don't think that the duo is possible. But that way, I am more in need of dots, so to speak. So the main negotiation right now was like basically just doing number totals, like how many dots do we need if Netherlands goes +1, +2, +3, 4, etc. And one part of this was Ute, who wasn't really set up to take many games this year. And notably, in the spring, had agreed to give some stuff back to the Netherlands in order to go for three-way. So if you look at the Caribbean, you can see that Ute has like given Netherlands back Bahamas and has set up so that they can have St. Augustine and Havana and Lee's, like if they're throwing dots to the Netherlands to make it three-way, because at this point Netherlands were also above victories. So it was just like, can you get far enough ahead of Grani? And so basically, as a result of this, it was not going to be plus a lot of plus this year. And so they were asking, can I have the Ryukyu Islands so that like I can have more of a buffer against the Netherlands? And there's a bunch of back and forth. Eventually, I told them yes and was like, no, I'm not going to do that, because worst comes to worst, it's another round of the game. And if it's another round of the game, Ute has problems with the Netherlands, I do not have problems with the Netherlands. The Netherlands has like 3 units next to me, and I can take those dots. I have like 10 units in the Indian Ocean area. So, and also I have gains in the Safavids. I have gains in India. Like, I do not have an issue with the game going longer. Ute probably is fine, but they're the ones who are going to have the explaining to do to the Netherlands. And the Netherlands is in the Caribbean and can push them back a bit. And so, yeah, basically, I decide not to give them islands. And so if you go to the moves phase, you can see that I stopped that move. And so, yeah, so on this phase, I managed to take Yuku. If we go to Safid's front, I keep Sassuram. I go for Delhi here because I figure that Safids are probably going for the Portuguese dots. And so that means that Gondwana is probably not tapping Allahabad. So that just means that I can take Delhi off of them. And then in the south, yeah, I take Masulipatam because that was a free Portugal dot that they threw to me. I take Ceylon from the Dutch. And then I also position so that if I need to take more, I can take more. If Reunion, and then in Australia, I have both Gulu and Work. I do not go for Outback here because, basically, part of the negotiations for the trio was also that Netherlands would get Work. And I just don't give it to them because, why should I? I'm going for the duo. And so, yeah, so I get Work, Gulu, and Danny. And then also just push my fleets forward just in case. So as a result of this, I go +9. And if we go to the final scoreboard, the question really becomes, do we beat out the Dutch and who's on top? So basically, in this phase, Ute managed to go +2 because they managed they did some moves that were a little risky, but managed to take some extra centers off of the Dutch because the Dutch thought that they were getting gifted centers. And then also, the other thing for the Dutch is that Grani goes +4 at the expense of Dutch. So they take 4 centers from the Dutch in South America. And as a combination of this, the Dutch only go, I think, +3 this phase. Or +2. Yeah, they only go +2 this phase. And so that means that they are unable to block us from impunity. And so, Ute went +3. I forgot what else. But yeah, so basically, the game ends with Ayutthaya on top, as it should be.
Yeah. Duo impunity, Ayutthaya board top.
Yeah. And also, like if the game had continued, the position should have just snowballed. Both mine and Ute's position. It's like once you get to 50 or so dots in an area, you're just unbeatable. like, so even if we hadn't gotten to impunity here, like nothing was gonna stop us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely a good way to force Shoshone to the bargaining table at the end there, because I think during the fall moves, they didn't end up giving the Dutch everything.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So basically, I was talking with Ute and like in the fall, and saying that if you like go back on this deal with the Dutch, we can duo. And also another part of that is even if they had gone through with the deal to the Dutch, it was very unclear that they were actually going to be able to get the Dutch to a high enough VSCC to clear Guarani, because Guarani, if you look at South America, was taking a lot off of the Dutch. So they take Salvador. I think they take Minas. Or sorry. They don't take Maristad. Take Salvador. They take Lima. They take Chiloé because the Netherlands stuck in Chiloé earlier. Chiloé is at the bottom. Yeah. And then they also take Antigua or something. They sneak into Guyana Current and then get into the Caribbean. So that's 4 dots from the Netherlands. And so Guarani is almost at VSBC and blocks the Netherlands, even if the Netherlands gets thrown a couple extra dots. And so that's also partly why UK decided to go for the duo instead. And so as part of this, I was able to uphold my promise to Portugal that their throwing in the end did result in the Dutch getting cut.
Oh
So
my god.
I guess sometimes if you have very petty goals, it does work. But yeah,
I
I don't know
almost
why they were so into this game, and we did get thrown to a lot. So, but
well,
being on the receiving end of throws is always nice.
um, we almost forgot about this move.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. So, do you want to explain?
so I think this was when you were in, so I'm gonna try my best. So my understanding was the Dutch were like 1 dot away from having that 30% off of Guarani in this phase where they stabbed Guarani. This would be the second to last year. And if they had not moved out of this dot, then they would have secured the impunity, like the 3-way between Ayutthaya, Shoshone, and the Netherlands, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, basically, the reasoning. So, this is actually a World of Chaos reference. So, this player in World of Chaos, they were in the guinea pigs. I think they played, like either Benin or Benin or Poe. I think it was Benin, but I'm not 100% sure. I might be wrong on that. And basically, the territory that the Alliance controlled was like Great Archer, Benin, Fernando Po, Asa States, Agadez, and Kanem which was a dot for chaos. So they wanted to control all of those dots or all of those provinces when they won the game as like a sort of meme. And then Spain just walks into their dot behind them, and that stops that impunity from going through, which led to the next year of the game. Which now I'm not 100% sure if it was just 1 dot, but because Ute also stabbed Netherlands that phase, but right, like walking into Bahamas, but yeah, I do think that it was very close. Uh, and so that, and also like they had to take it back, and it wasted a bunch of time. But yeah, so
It's very
that
ironic
was the
that
meme.
it's Spain who's the one profiting off of this move, because Spain was
Well,
very
Spain kept those armies around there for something, and eventually they're gonna get into a dot.
it the Spanish armies, they got their revenge on the Dutch. They got their revenge.
Yeah, they those 5 armies that have been there all game. They haven't had any dots all game. Sometimes they have one or two, but like, yeah, would not recommend.
Sometimes I wonder where what supply centers are even funding these armies. Like, they lost all of this.
For a while it was Asia, and then it was the Caribbean.
I guess,
And
yeah,
they
Jamaica.
also lost that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. Well, just some closing thoughts. One of the things that I definitely learned from this game is like, don't rush for an impunity. I think both myself and maybe Shoshone kind of fell for like trying to get the impunity we wanted, where I wanted like a quick one. Shoshone wanted like to include the Netherlands, and those didn't really work out. So next game, I'll just go full greed, even when it's like last 2 years. Um, that's what I think I learned at least. But what about you? Any closing thoughts?
I mean, when I came into the position, like, you had already essentially won the game, right? Like, it was already at over 100% victories. Like, the only threat was UT Solverine, and even that wasn't a ton of a threat because it's not like they could go plus 15 or something in a turn. And so, honestly, I was just playing out the motions. I underestimated, like, how much, how much people who are, like, I guess the lesson that I would take out of this is don't piss someone off to the point where they will throw completely to stop you from winning. Because by all means, Netherlands deserved to win this game. And the only reason why they did it was because Portugal threw, I think, like 10 knots to me or something. Like, sure, I was taking half of those anyway, but like, things like India was like completely unnecessary. And so, uh, yeah, so I guess it would be like, be careful about what lies you tell to people, because if it hits in the wrong place, that can be an enemy that you do not want to have, especially when they're colonial and have nothing to gain or nothing to lose.
Or Vlad.